Welcome to the podcast of the American Diversity Report, where we interview diverse change makers and creative innovators. I'm Deborah Levine, the editor and your podcast host, and with me today is Joseph James, who is an award-winning mainstream singer, songwriter, producer from New York, and the founder of AP Music Group. He holds a bachelor's degree in music from Berklee College of Music in Boston. And Joseph has performed, produced, and toured with major acts all over the world. Some notable acts you're going to hear about will include Lady Gaga and Richie Blackmore and others. So you're going to love this. Let's hear from Joseph and have us hear how he got started in music in the first place.
Hey, Deborah, how are you? Nice to see you. So how I got started in music. I think the simple answer is I did it as a pastime. See, I didn't take any lessons till my junior or senior year in high school. I listened all the time. My brother was a classical pianist, and his job was to my older brother. So he would keep tabs on me. My job was to sit in the corner while he did his lessons and his practicing, because that was his job. And I think because of listening, I fell in love with all these different kinds of music. My whole life, I think that was the spark that got me just to listen to everything. And so from sitting in the corner during his lessons and his practice time, I then delved into, what channels could I find on the radio? What could I got into like tape recorders. My father bought me my first tape recorder, and I just couldn't get enough music for it. So I would say, it got me just pure passion and love. If somebody would have said, well, let me explain the business ramifications to you, I'd be like, So I think for the most part, I fell into it completely for the love of it. And I dealt with the rest of it and continue to deal with the rest of it today. So there you have it.
So when you did take music lessons in high school, what instrument did you play?
Well, my father got me the most horrific teacher to unmotivate me. He got the I used to call this guy I had every adjective for this guy till we became best friends. But he got me this teacher at a Juilliard who was, if you ever seen the movie Whiplash, basically I think this guy inspired the torturous regiment that these teachers put the kids through in this movie. But then even with all that adversity and all that difficulty and acceptance, he found his way to me. I found my way to him, and you couldn't stop at that point. So I think at that point, it was like, okay, well, hey, he's playing classical. I mean, I've always played and always tinkered, always had the bands, but I never knew what I was doing. So, but even when I graduated high school in Long Island, my father's like, you're still going to business school. I said, all right. My parents were in charge. They were paying, so fine. And it was there that my first year of business school, I studied with a really good piano teacher who was the doctorate teacher. And I just went to an open audition at Berklee one day, got in, tested into my second year, and got some scholarship money. And my parents were cool. They're like, all right, well, you've proven yourself to want to go further. So good luck. And my dad would say to me, old school Italian, if you kill yourself, I'll kill you. And we knew what that meant, my brothers and I. So we ended up, and here we are today, graduated Berklee, ended up on the road doing things. And piano was always my principal instrument. Singing was a hobby, but I took it serious. And here I am now with that. But I have played guitar and other instruments. I played some woodwinds and things like that, because you have to graduate Berklee. You got to do these juries and all these different instruments. And, and they try to find ways to make a quarter, So we do it all. I could say other things, but I know the show's family friendly. So you do whatever it takes.
Indeed. Now,
Hmm.
I played the violin in high school
Yeah,
myself, right? I
yeah,
wanted to play the flute, but when I was really young, they told you couldn't do instruments when you were as young as that. I was
right.
7 or 8, so I chose the violin, and it was kind of cool. Uh, but I never had the courage to think of it as a career. Go you. And by the way, I was in Long Island. Where in Long Island were you?
So I was born in Oceanside, and
Okay.
then at about 10 years old, my father, we moved to Syosset. So I finished all my schooling in Southwoods and Syosset High School.
Cool.
Yeah.
Oh, we first came to America and ended up in Westbury, East Meadow, and then Great Neck.
Okay. There you
Yeah.
go.
Yeah.
That's great, Devin. Yeah, no, all good areas. I actually went back to Long Island. Now I live in the city and upstate, but for a short stint when COVID was peaking, I had an apartment in on the river in right where Sully landed in Edgewater, New Jersey, and somebody offered to buy it, a studio and everything. I was there for 15 years, and I said, I'm done with Jersey, and I went back to Long Island and did Southampton for about a year and a half,
Oh,
and
go
it
you.
was too far from civilization, and I just think COVID started getting better, and I said this place isn't for me. I said I got to get out of here, and it sold in like 5 minutes. But I just I love Long Island, but I love having been there, and I don't think I'm going back anymore. So
Gotcha. Understand.
yeah,
Understand. I worked in Manhattan for quite a while myself, and
yeah,
I understand the difference. And audience, check it out.
yeah. Well, it's the fault of the Long Island Expressway. You can keep it. I just that's the nemesis of life. You know, we'll get to the people next time. But anyway, it's all good. But
All
yeah,
right.
too much of a commute.
So you have traveled around the world in so many places to do your music.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about your travels.
Well, I mean, I just got back from Austin yesterday. We did South by Southwest. We did a handful of shows and they were great. Um, Always traveling somewhere, but I've been to a lot of Europe. I started traveling when I got picked up by Blackmore to do his Blackmore's night tour when they were kicking that thing off. It was somewhere in the beginning. I don't know if we were the first crew, but that took me all over Asia and Europe, and that was really amazing.
I bet
Um,
it was.
and gigs like always worked out well. Like I said, I had good teachers. I think when I was broken in by the classical teacher, the one thing I took away from that was that always have a great teacher that you don't ever feel like you've learned enough. And one teacher always told me, man, if you can always play this stuff, play piano, you'll always find a gig. And to this day, I get calls to go everywhere to play. I don't take the weddings and stuff like that anymore, but I do get a lot of great solo gigs. And now the band doing well with the record has really been taking me all over the place. So, we just booked a couple shows in Pittsburgh. We're opening, an old school rocker named Gino Vanelli. We just got a handful of shows with him and a couple dates out in Westbury, the Westbury Music Fair. I think it was called back in the day. Now it's called the Theater at Westbury. And things are going real well. And the next single is about to launch, which is going to really help us travel. And fortunately, I like to travel, so it's good.
That's good. Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
So tell us a little bit about your album and your music that you're doing these days.
Well, during COVID, I just kind of gave up on all the stuff I didn't ever like or as much or didn't want to do. So I pretty much gave up all the legitimate, club dates. And I never wanted to do that to begin with, but it's how you pay the mortgage. And I went just to writing and playing back to my roots and started studying with the A list of piano teachers that I loved in jazz and bebop and even rock and stuff. And I just everything was online, but I dove back into that. I was so absorbed into that world again. And I hadn't written for myself. I've written for other people. I've been paid to write for people for a long time. But without a clock or money's coming in, I just went into writing and I wrote 30, 40 songs that I happen to really like. Well, not all of them. I would say, I'd say most of them. And I used to be an avid writer like that. But then after COVID started settling down again, I just said, hey, life's too short. Let's get on the road and see how crazy that is in about a year or two. So, and here I am. I don't know where it's going. I like where I've been. My dreams are usually they're bigger than where I've been, so that usually motivates me to keep going. And I keep getting little nuggets of directions. So we're moving ahead. But the next single comes out in May. And again, everything I'm doing is going to major market radio. But Valentine, which was my debut single, because it really perfectly coincided with Valentine's Day, was great. I mean, it peaked at 20 on the Billboard charts, and everything I'm doing is to the nines. There's no secondary or tertiary operations here. I mean, I'm literally just taking whatever monies I put aside, which I guess psychologically planned in the background, and I'm just going full blast. And we got a good team, but Valentine really opened up a lot of doors. The rest of the record is a little edgier than a Valentine's Day song, but with all due respect, it's equally as great, and I'm really proud of it.
Well, you should have a lot of friends in the music industry who assist you. I understand, for example, that you met Lady Gaga.
Oh, I didn't meet her. I mean, I worked with her and lived with her for
Oh,
about 6 months.
oh my
Um,
goodness, what was that like?
it was great. Whew. I really want to answer this question, but I'm going to be as hmm, I'm going to be as neutral as I can, because
Okay.
um, I love the experience of having been part of her ride. Having worked with her has really obviously gotten me into the magazines and the books, and it's been great. I will say I was disappointed when my first single as an artist hit 20 on the charts, and billboards are being erected in Times Square, and we're doing a bunch of opening dates for bands, and you know all over. I was very disappointed in Stephanie for just not having my back at this point. And so that's and this is, listen, these interviews are about being honest. I like to tell it like it is. So what was it like? To this day, it's still great having known her. I don't feel like I know her nor her family anymore, because like I said, and I talked to her dad just a couple days ago. He's been very interested in trying to explain, which he in his own words, he said, I can't explain why she didn't go to bat for you. He said, quote unquote, I'd probably still be installing Wi-Fi if it wasn't for you. And it's true. I was the only person that stayed by her side when the band and everybody just went up and went against her. And I mean, we didn't get paid to do her demos till the very end, till she landed her record deal. And even then it was pennies on the dollar. But to be fair, the experience obviously was great. And this is a good experience for everyone else in the business. Favors don't always come as easy as you expect them to. And I don't even call them favors. I call that paying it forward. So I am disappointed in Stephanie. But I do wish her the best. And that's it. I tell it like it is.
Yeah. Well, what
Yeah.
about working for Dolly Parton?
Aces. I mean, like I said, some people are great. Some people are genuine. Dolly always did the right thing and led me to Camille, who is, if you ever seen the Christmas special she does, Camille is her co-star in a lot of these Hallmark things.
Yeah.
And so Camille and I have had a few big records, and Camille is booming. As a matter of fact, I literally just spoke to her and her family as I was in Austin. I mean, they're family, they've always been family. She's now playing with George Strait, and she's doing amazing things. And we have, oh gosh, about 8 or 10 co-writes together, and we've broken the charts in a few different countries.
Wow.
Recently, Fiddling Around, which was written for Camille to do and produced by Dolly and I, did really well for her, and she's now landed her next movie deal. And so, and
So
again, and,
nice.
and no disrespect to people that don't do as much as Camille, but I tell it like it is.
Well, you know, I'm here headquartered now in Chattanooga, Tennessee. So
Oh, yeah, I lived
Dolly
in Nashville.
Parton, yeah,
Yeah,
Dolly Parton is
she's the billboard.
she is Tennessee.
Oh yeah.
You know, and there was actually a movement to create a monument to Dolly up in Nashville, and she was so Dolly like. She said, "Y'all wait till I'm dead before you make a monument."
I remember the first time I met Dolly was with her manager. I can't think of his name at this point, but he has his office right by the airport. And she was cool. She said to me, she's so funny. She's like, you're my favorite Yankee. She's like, she goes, I don't have any others. She's like, but I still think you would hold in the top 10. I said, all right. I mean, she's cool. And knowing and having worked with Camille Sanders and all the people that were from her camp has been a blessing and a gift that keeps giving.
I can imagine, you know, she is not just loved but adored here in the.
Dolly's aces. I mean, I have another great Dolly story. Well, I had my first time I met Dolly that same day or the next day. I was somehow another artist that for a little while when I was working in Nashville, a lot of these what I call them female kitty artists. They were like teenagers that, I got the reputation of being able to get, which is true. I got a lot of these artists on the radio. I'd worked for radio for a long time as a hobby, well, as a moonlighting job, I should say. But I remember one night I was talking to the father of one of these artists that I worked with, who we did really well. Ultimately, we worked with Jason Aldean, and we had one of my songs that I wrote for her album actually broke the country charts that summer. But we were celebrating the signing of the deal at a restaurant, and Loretta Lynn was at the bar. And as fun, I just left out. I'm like, this is, and I'm still kind of new to Nashville, and it's amazing because when people say, oh, people invite you to their house for a concert. I don't know if that's part of it's true, but the idea of it is, I mean, you can go to a diner and have coffee with Kenny Chesney or whoever's just passing through. And in this situation, Loretta Lynn's at the bar and she's celebrating her new bluesy album. And she had a few. And the guy I was with, who's I call him, well, he's a Boca Ratonian, he's an attorney. He's got a bit of a mouth on him. I love him to death. But I was like, you know who that is? I was explaining it's Loretta, and he was kind of needing her. I said, no, don't do that. I said, she doesn't take crap. I said, from what I gather. And he said one thing too many. And my job is to try to keep this deal alive. She must have misunderstood something he said. He was being a wise guy. She turns around and goes to clock him. I move him out of the way, and she punches me right in the mouth. But the best part is she was so apologetic. She's basically kissing me. She goes, I'm so sorry. I meant to hit him. And I'm like, well, I kind of wish you did at this point. So yeah, Nashville's great. But yeah, you're right. Dolly she exemplifies the heart of Nashville country.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
Always.
Yeah.
Oh, it's wonderful. I've never met her in person, but I hope to someday.
She's amazing. She's got that same persona. She looks right at you when she speaks. She's genuine. She's interested. Garth Brooks is a lot like that. Actually, Garth Brooks scares you when he does it. It seems like he could actually take x-rays of your brain when he's looking at you. There's a picture of Garth and I at the music awards. And I kind of look nervous because we just spent the last 20 minutes of him just looking through me. They both have that genuine love. At least it appears to be that way.
Oh my. Oh, I'm glad you had that Nashville experience. Not everybody from New York City has that.
Oh, they still know I'm a New Yorker, but I had landed a job at Silver Creek Records on Music Row. And so for about 10 years, I was an A&R guy, making my own hours, my own days and everything. So it was kind of cool. It was a great education, and it was sort of something that has really benefited me to this day.
Do you go back to Nashville these days?
Oh, all the time. Yeah, I get called in for sessions. Again, having worked with some people that are notable, you get called in and flown in more often than not to cut rhythm section tracks and vocals, and I mean, I'm really detailed, and I think that goes a long way. I mean, the Nashville session players to me are the Muscle Shoals of Nashville, and LA players of Nashville, and but I'm glad I'm part of that team, so it's kind of cool.
Yes, it is very cool.
Yeah, and you get to travel, you get to eat good food too. The food's
Oh,
good there.
yes, I fried everything.
Yeah, yeah.
Except for maybe the pecan pie.
Oh my gosh, pecan pie and the fried green tomatoes are aces.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, I've been here in Tennessee for almost 25 years,
Oh, it's great.
and it's beautiful. Have you ever been down to Chattanooga?
I didn't stay. I drove through. I just finished a road tour with radio in and around for Valentine's, and I drove from, geez, Rochester, New York, all the way to Huntsville, Alabama, over, and I stopped. Yeah, it's crazy. I even stopped in Nashville for dinner. I saw the 65 eggs, and I'm like, well, I need a break, and I met a bunch of studio friends for dinner for a couple hours.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
You have been traveling. My gosh. How
Yeah, it's been
long
a
did
lot.
that
I'm actually
take
exhausted.
you driving from that? How long a drive is that?
I did over a week.
Oh,
I had station shows and appearances in Cincinnati. I'm
okay.
in no particular order: Virginia, Pittsburgh, DC, Atlanta, Alabama, Huntsville. Let's see, it was Birmingham and Huntsville, and then that's it. I said, I'm done. I'm flying home. I was spent. I need to take on less in those periods of time because I overdo it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. That is amazing.
Hmm. Yeah, I know.
And is that what you got heading into the future? Is that what it looks like?
Yeah, I'm hoping. I mean, we hit 20 with Valentine. Radio has really been antsy, and right back here is me mixing the next 14, 13 songs. I'm almost done. Yeah, they picked a single. It's called For All You Know. We believe it's 95% the next single, which is great. And I mean, there's about 7 that were in the pool for being released to radio. So we've got the next one, and it goes out in May, and it's accompanied by some touring and a bunch of last minute things that are now coming in because we have announced the date. So
Wow.
yeah, we'll see. I mean, it's going to be like that. It really has to be like that. I mean, you know, and it's good to be around people that agree with that because the theory of staying home and having it pop out of your computer in your bedroom is not true. You got to go work it. So
Yeah.
yeah, so it's going to be like that. I'm just going to try to take a little more time for myself.
I bet there are going to be some young people listening to this who are
I
paying
hope.
attention, that's right, as to what it is like to go into the music business and stay in it and be successful. It's not easy. And it
No
takes a lot of work and time and effort and patience like you have
commitment.
had.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
It's tough. I mean, I love it, but it's still, you have your days, you know.
yeah.
Mm.
What would you say to a young person starting out in this industry? What advice
Run.
would you give them? Okay.
Um, what would I say? It's actually a great question because, and I said this to the other interviewer that when I was asked that, well, just dive in both feet right out of the gate, whether you leave it all behind you and decide it as soon as you can if it's for you or not. Because um, the older you get, decisions, life, you are going to make sacrifices your entire life for what you love. So make sure that the love, as much as you can see it for now, outweighs, make sure the price is worth the expense. And that's very figurative, but I mean, because it applies to every facet of what you are going to have to endure and love. So, but hopefully you're on the young end of it. I mean, every so often somebody will Facebook me or message me somewhere and say, hey, I'm thinking about getting into the business. I just gave up my job at as an accountant, and I want to learn how to be a songwriter. And I'm just like, oh. And I told one guy recently, I said, I would. He goes, what do you think? I said, I wouldn't. I said, stick with your job. You got kids, you got a wife. I mean, it sounds like there's another problem somewhere. If you want to leave the house and become a rock star with kids and a wife, I would talk to your wife first. Let her decide for you.
Oh my goodness, yes. Well, being in
Yeah.
the arts is something that requires incredible passion,
Mm.
and not everyone out there appreciates that. They listen to your music, they like it, but they don't understand the incredible power behind it and what you've
Yeah.
done. And you have done it for so many people as well as yourself.
Mm.
And I'm sure they're grateful in different ways for the music and the writing that you've created for them.
Yeah, I think so. I think every one of them has their moment of appreciation, whether you see it now or saw it then or whatever. And I love it enough to say that's all it takes. I mean, I have no questions that I didn't make the right decision. Because I really never did want to do anything else. For better or worse, I've always been tough on myself, and oh man, that's the epitome of it. I call torture. Um, but I do think every artist that I've been blessed to work with, I think at some point we had an equal love and appreciation for each other. It may not last all the time, but that's life. But most of them have.
Well, that's a wonderful, amazing life to have. I'd like to, as a writer, I'd like to suggest that at some point you need to write your memoir.
Oh, there's a lot of good stuff. A lot of people have said that. I've got great stories.
Yes, you do.
Unlike Dolly, I'd like to write it while I'm alive, because I do enjoy the camaraderie and the attention of those that might appreciate it, and I'd love to meet them. I like the fans. Fans are cool.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah,
Well, that's what makes your career uh, keep going,
yeah.
percolating the fans
As
who.
as the shrink says, it's kind of like a good drug. Yeah. I mean, he was right when he first said that to me years ago. I mean, I don't. We're not exactly hanging out every day. I mean, but back in the day when I got divorced, I remember that was the one thing. I mean, he said, he's like, he's like he's the arts. He's like, it's if you can manage the attention, he's like, it's really a very good drug. And it took me a while to like see where he's going with that. And I said, huh. So now when I do gigs, it's like I try to more so try to win over the audience because it's a good thing. If you can make somebody happy, then they're obviously making you happy. So it is a good drug. I don't, what I'm saying?
I
So
sure do. I sure
yeah,
do.
yeah,
As a writer, that's what you aim to do. Be
yeah,
able to engage and inspire, move
yeah.
people. Yeah, that's what it's all about. And I want to thank
Yes,
you so much for all the work that you've done
my
with so
pleasure.
many people in so many different ways. It's not
Mm.
just singing or writing or both. It's so many different things that requires quite a universe up here.
Absolutely. You're right, Deborah. Yeah. Well, thank you. I really appreciate this. This is I'd love to see the interview, and hear it obviously, because I really feel like this was a great exchange, and it's nice to have a good interview where there's no dead space. It's like,
uh,
how many blades of grass do you have in your backyard? You know, that was actually a funny question on one of those talk shows. The guy already won, but the next person went up and he just created questions. He goes, how many blades of grass are in the average square mile? And the guy was like, what question is that? Dead space.
oh gosh. You may actually at some point have a wonderful career as a stand-up comedian.
My mom's been saying that a lot, but I think that would push the edge of insanity. Um,
Okay.
I love laughing. I watch comics all the time, but no, I don't. I think I'm good in this situation. If you put me on stage in front of 100 people and I have to be funny, whew, it ain't happening.
I see. All right. Well, who knows what the future may bring?
Yeah, maybe you'll interview me as a comic next year. You never know.
The deal.
All right, Deborah. Well, thank you for your time, and I really appreciate you. And
Thank you. And is
you
there
guys,
anything else you'd like to
yeah,
add?
I was gonna say,
Yeah.
yeah, for everyone that's watching, please check me out at Joseph James NYC, like NewYorkCity.com, for all real-time updates. The schedule's packed. There's gigs every week, solo band, small acoustic gigs. The album, next single, everything, all the release dates, the European legs of the tour that are coming up over the summer. It's all right there. So Joseph James NYC will go in the distance for better or worse. So look for the Hindenburg near you. Hopefully it doesn't have a big hole in it. So
Not. But I have a great, great expectations for you and hope. I know you're going to be just wonderful. And thank you so much for joining us. Audience, thank you for joining us. And we're going to stop recording shortly, but if you would stay on, Joseph, afterwards,
yeah, sure.
something to ask you. And audience, enjoy.
Enjoy.
Enjoy. There you go.